Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with Victory 4x4. In this video, we're going to be installing our strike sliders here on our 2023 Toyota 4Runner. For those of you that purchased the logo step plates, you'll want to start with these as your first step of this install, getting them mounted here to the slider. Now, before those actually go in place, the first thing you will need to do is install the adhesive-backed rubber insulators between the step plate and the slider here on each of their mounting surfaces. Now these are just what they sound like. They're a pre-cut piece of rubber with an adhesive backing, so you can simply start by peeling one corner, get that protective film off and place it down here on the slider, just making sure that you have it lined up properly around the slot here. And then you also just want to make sure that these mounting surfaces are clean and free of any dirt or debris. So wipe those off as needed with some rubbing alcohol or even some wax and grease remover before placing these down. Then, like I said, just make sure, kind of take your time here and get it lined up properly so that it will not interfere with any of the mounting hardware. And go ahead and press it down and get it stuck in place. You'll have 3 of those rectangular pieces across the center section of the slider, and then out on each end you'll have one of these more triangle cut pieces to go in here. After you have all 5 of those in place, you can take your step plate and place it on top of the slider and begin lining things up. You can secure the step plate to the slider using the provided 1/4-20 button head bolts with washers, and on the back side serrated flange nuts. So simply reach underneath to line that nut up and install the bolt here. You'll want to install all the remaining hardware by hand before tightening anything in place. After you have all of that mounting hardware loosely installed, you can make sure that the step plate is centered up here on the slider, and then grab a 5/32 hex to tighten these up. Now you can find the provided end caps in your hardware pack. There's going to be one of these for each end of the slider, and we do recommend installing them with a little bit of black RTV silicone sealant just to prevent any moisture or debris from getting in here over time. Then just be sure to clean up any excess, and then we can go do that on the other end. Now moving up here to the vehicle frame, you'll want to remove this bolt on each side. This is going to be the forward-most parking brake cable mounting bracket bolt. You'll need a 12mm socket, and we will be reinstalling a bolt into this location once the slider's in place. So then moving just ahead of that bracket, there's going to be a few black plastic caps that we're going to remove from the frame rail. There's a couple that are this rectangular style. You can see that this one's kind of broken already. Most of these do break as they come out, but they're not going to be reused, so it's not super critical. So there's one here, both kind of rectangular, and then we're going to get in here and remove this round plug as well. With that stuff out of the way on the frame, we can now grab our assembled slider and begin placing it here on the vehicle. Be sure you're paying attention to these parking brake cables as you're getting the slider into position, because we do want to mount this to the outside here. You don't want it pinched between the slider and the frame. Now, if you're already equipped with our gas tank skid plate, you will need to remove the 2 bolts up here on the driver's side front mounting bracket for that, because our slider does need to tuck in between this frame rail and the skid. If you don't have this tank skid, you can kind of use this front tank mounting strap bracket here as a locator along with the cutout here in the slider. So then I can just kind of pull down on the tank skid a little bit here, slide the slider leg over top, and kind of let that hold this end up against the frame. With that over top, you then can take the bolt and line them back up here and start that into the frame. Again, if you're not equipped with this tank skid, these are going to be the flanged M8 hex head bolts in your hardware pack. Then there's going to be one more here just behind that fuel tank strap. to want to start all of our slider leg mounting hardware before we tighten any of this up. So these lower mounting bolts will have basically located the slider from front to rear on the frame, and then we're just placing bolts in each mounting hole at this point. Specifically, this one up here, you can install the bolt through the parking brake cable bracket and then get that installed here into the frame, and then you'll have an additional slotted cutout here for the locating tab. As you're installing your hardware here to the legs, you'll also want to install the gusseted tie-in brackets that you can kind of see here. This one's a little hard to see on the rear set of legs, but basically you're going to be bolting them into the welded on tab here on the slider leg, as well as the upper rearmost hole on this main leg mounting bracket. This is kind of a rough look at the rear one. We'll jump to the front one and give you a better look at how this gets installed. So we moved to the front leg here simply because this one's a little bit more visible during our install, but these are going to be the same brackets and they're going to mount in the exact same way using the same hardware. So you're going to mount the bracket to the back side of the welded on tab here on the leg. It'll install using the same flanged hex head bolt as the rest of the slider up here on the frame side. And then down here on the slider leg side, you'll need to find the 3/8 hex head bolts, washers, and flanged locking nuts to go in these two holes. Once you have all this main mounting hardware started loosely by hand in both the front and rear legs, we can begin to tighten things up. Now you will want to make sure to take a step back and just make sure that the slider looks parallel to the body, and then you can grab a 13mm socket to start tightening your frame side hardware. You will want to make sure that this frame side bolt is tight here before grabbing a 9/16 and coming out here to tighten these two bolts. Now the flange lock nuts here should bite into the material and you shouldn't need any tools on the back side, but if you do, it's just a 9/16 wrench, much like out here. And then we can tighten these up as well. Following those same steps, you can get your passenger side slider installed and complete your installation. So if you guys have any questions at all about this install or anything else we offer here at Victory 4x4, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can send us an email at info@victory4x4.com or just give us a call at 269-459-8447.